I'm sure all of you are familiar with this icon of the civil rights movement, John Lewis, who once said, and I quote, "Get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the soul of America," close quote, which has been used over and over to motivate all of us to action. John Robert Lewis was born outside of Troy, Alabama on February 21, 1940. He had a happy childhood, although he had to work hard to assist his sharecropper parents who worked on 110 acres with cotton, corn, and peanut fields. As a young boy, John picked cotton and did other farm duties. It was a lot of hard work, but John's favorite thing to do was to hang out with the chickens. Because Lewis wanted to be a preacher, he would often preach to the chickens in the chicken coop while tending to the hens and counting their eggs. In his Washington office, he had numerous chicken artifacts. He was inspired by Dr. King, who he first listened to on the radio when he was a freshman in high school. When, in 1954, the Supreme Court ruled that racial segregation of children in public schools was unconstitutional in the Brown versus Board of Education case, he was disappointed when his school life was not affected at all. He was also disappointed that the ministers at his church never mentioned these injustices. He liked the fact that Dr. King applied the principles of the church to the present situation, calling it social gospel. King's sermons and courageous defiance showed John that it was possible to do more as a minister than what he had previously witnessed. John came to the attention of Dr. King when he indicated his desire to desegregate Troy State College, which is now Troy University. He applied but never heard from the school. His mom helped him go to college at the American Baptist Theological Seminary, where he received a BA in Religion and Philosophy in 1967. Incidentally, Troy University renamed one of the main buildings on the campus John Robert Lewis Hall. This hall was previously called Bibbs Graves Hall after the former Alabama governor who had ties to the KKK. While in school, John undertook the study of nonviolent protest and became involved in sit-ins at lunch counters and other segregated public places. He was arrested many times, and his first arrest was on February 2, 1960. He actually spent his 21st birthday in jail. When the students were arrested, they refused to pay fines in segregated states because they felt that it was perpetuating segregation. In 1961, as one of the 13 original Freedom Riders who challenged the segregation of southern interstate bus terminals, Lewis was beaten and arrested often. On May 14, 1961, which was Mother's Day, the Freedom Riders bus was firebombed in Alabama. John Lewis was supposed to be on that bus, but had gone to an interview for a volunteer program in India and was to rejoin his bus later. In Birmingham, Alabama, a second bus was firebombed. Bull Connor, the chief of police, had promised the KKK that he would not send in any cops for 15 minutes so that the KKK could brutalize the riders. One Freedom Rider was brutally beaten and received permanent brain damage, had a stroke, and was paralyzed. Even with this, the Freedom Rides continued. In 1963, Lewis became the chairman of Snick, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, a position he held until 1966. He also played an important role in the 1966 March on Washington, where, although he was still in his early 20s, he was considered to be one of the civil rights movement's big six leaders, along with Dr. King, James Farmer, A. Philip Randolph, Roy Wilkins, and Whitney Young. He entered elective office as an Atlanta City Councilman in 1981, and in 1986 began representing a district that included Atlanta in the U.S. House of Representatives. There is so much more to learn about this dynamic man. There are books for all levels, such as Walking with the Wind, March 1, March 2, and March 3, and Preaching to the Chickens. Congressman John R. Lewis passed away July 17, 2020, and was the first African-American lawmaker to lie in state in the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol.